All right, so we are now recording. So, welcome to the second to last week of school where you guys have been reading Shabanu. Remember what I said? You got to be quiet, right?
I'm leaving.
You're leaving. Don't disturb Camden doing his e-learning.
Okay, I'm just going to check on him.
Anyways, so Shabanu is the book that we've been reading. This is what the book looks like for those of you who, obviously don't have a book because they're all sitting in my classroom. But this is what the book looks like, and we have been taking the last couple of weeks to read a chapter of this book, and I asked you guys to actually take notes on the book. Main characters, like big places, events, things that you might need to remember. I told you not to take a lot of notes. We don't need pages and pages and pages of notes. We just need, a couple of things jotted down here and there, some main characters, main places, big events that happen. Okay. And that I said it would be used for your end of the year project, which is a story quilt. Now, I have printed out all my pages that I will be showing you today, and my goal is to put them out on Google Classroom Sunday evening. That's my goal. Fingers crossed that, nobody hits another power pole or anything. So there's that. I have to make a couple edits to make it more appropriate to e-learning versus being in the classroom. But my idea is that I'll get it out on Sunday and you guys can kind of work on it as you see fit. But it is broken down into 3 days of work: Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Now, if you want to do that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, doesn't matter to me, but you'll see why in a little bit while I'm going to put it out on Sunday. All right. So we have the book Shabanu. You've been taking your notes, hopefully. And now, next week, you are going to create a story quilt. All right. And you might say, well, what's a story quilt? It looks a little different in the classroom than it does in person. Have you guys ever seen a quilt before? Do you guys know what that looks like? Can somebody answer in the comments what a quilt looks like? Nobody's ever seen a quilt.
Mark
Right?
says
Oh,
it's a
thanks.
blanket with patches on it depicting events.
Yes, it's a blanket with patches on it, right? And it can depict events or different things. I have a quilt. It was made by my mom, and it has a bunch of my old T-shirts from college. She cut them apart just so, and actually sewed them all together to make a blanket for me because I got a ton of T-shirts in college when I was at Ball State, and it was getting a little bit much, and I didn't want to get rid of the T-shirts, but I also didn't need them anymore. So instead, we decided to turn them into a blanket for me. So that's what you would do. Now, in theory, in class, what we do is we would actually create this and then tape all of the quilt patches that each of you would make together to make like a paper quilt that we would hang on the wall. So we'd have a 3rd-hour quilt and a 4th-hour quilt and a 6th-hour quilt. Unfortunately, we're not together, so you won't be able to tape them all together, but you'll each be creating your own patch of the quilt. Okay, so the quilt basically, it's going to help you recognize symbolism in literature and what things, like important things there were in the story, important people, important objects, important places. And then also understand how these objects can actually hold a deeper meaning than just being the object itself. For instance, an animal in the story. There was an animal that had way more significance than just an animal. Does anybody know the name of that animal? I have faith in you.
So Mav says the camel.
The camel, right? And the camel's name was Guluban, right? And he symbolized a lot more than just being a camel, right? He wasn't just a camel. If he was just a camel, Shabanu wouldn't have cared about him that much. So these are objects in the story that mean more than maybe what first led off. Okay. Another one, it might be the chatouche that Shabanu was given. Okay, during the story, there's lots of things I can kind of keep going, but they mean more. The jewelry that Shabanu gets at the end of the story. Why did Shabanu get a lot of jewelry at the end of the story? You should have done this yesterday, so I don't feel so bad asking a question about this. Why did Shabanu get a bunch of jewelry at the end, towards the end of the story? I think it was the second to the last chapter. Maybe the third to the last chapter. She got a bunch of jewelry, a box full of it. It was beautiful, expensive jewelry.
Mark said because the 55-year-old man was buying her.
Yeah, exactly. That wasn't just jewelry, was it? It was like his way of buying her affection. Because what's going to happen to Shabanu now at the end of the story? She kind of got the short end of the stick.
And Mav says marriage.
Marriage. But does she get to marry who she wants?
Bree says no.
No, she didn't get to marry who she wanted. She is now marrying a 55-year-old man who has multiple wives. And with that being said, remember, I told you at the very beginning of this book, it was going to, I was going to ask for your maturity when reading it because it dealt with a lot of adult issues. And in their culture, this is a completely normal thing to have multiple wives. Polygamy is what we call that. So when we look at that, and we see the jewelry, we know that the jewelry doesn't just stand for the jewelry. Okay. And there's a lot of that in the book. Everything from the beginning of the book, even a desert. Is that desert just a desert? Or does it mean more to Shabanu? Those kind of things. And that's what you're going to show me in this story quilt. You're going to show me that symbolism that's in literature. Now, you'll choose important aspects from the book. Now, again, there's worksheets that will come across to you digitally. Okay, so this is like your Tuesday worksheet. And I'm going to separate this out a little bit because in school you would have gotten like this huge packet that was all stapled together and we'd work through it like page by page. But digitally, I'm going to make sure that everything falls on Tuesday's page, on Wednesday's page, and on Thursday's page. So here is you kind of see it. I'm going to read through this a little bit. The top says, can you think of any objects that have a special meaning to you? Do they remind you of another person or maybe an important event? Think about Shabanu. Were there significant objects in the story? In literature, these objects are called symbols. They are representative of something important. Characters and events that occur in the story are also important parts of a book that help define the theme of the book. For this project, you'll make a quilt that shows 4 important aspects of the book, Shabanu. Now, in the first part, on your first question, I'm going to fold this in half here. You're going to have to, I don't know if you guys can actually see that. You're going to have to look through the book you can't look through the book, but you're going to have to look through your notes and name 2 places that were significant to Shabanu, 2 characters that were significant in Shabanu, 2 objects that were significant, and 2 events that occurred that were really for this story, they were kind of the parts of the story that you were like, whoa, okay, this really kind of changed the storyline, or maybe it was the climax of the story. For the 2 events, we're not just talking about Daddy rode camels. Like, that's not an event. That was an everyday occurrence. Okay, we're talking about something that stood out. In fact, today's homework, Thursday's homework, asks you pretty much that question. What are the events that are so important in Shabanu? Okay. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at my children. So with that, also in today's assignment, you're going to notice at the very bottom of the Shabanu assignment today that there's an extra credit portion. So if you have done all of your assignments and you have them turned in, you get to do the extra credit. But I'll be honest, for somebody who did not do all their work, I have a hard time giving them extra credit just to get them up to where somebody worked really hard to get. Okay. So you have to have all your assignments turned in to be eligible for that extra credit. Now, you can go ahead and do those old assignments, but you do have to email me with your name, the assignment you've done late. Okay. That's what I need. I need the assignment name and date. Like, you need to tell me, because I don't want to have to click in and out of 8 weeks worth of assignments trying to figure out which one you turned in. I'm not going to work that hard for a late assignment, but I will go back and grade it if you give me your name and you give me the date and the name of the assignment that you're turning in. Okay. Now, again, like I said, that's extra credit. That question at the bottom, the extra credit grade will be graded separately. It will be on its own little separate column in PowerSchool. It will not be with the first 3 questions on the page today. All right. Now, getting back to our story quilts. So we're going to choose those 2 events. Hey, Camden, you got to go upstairs, bud. Yeah, but the rattling, honey, makes it hard for people to hear what I'm saying. He's going to try to be quieter. So you're going to choose 2 places, 2 characters, 2 objects, and 2 events. Then what you're going to do next is you are going to, on this kind of, here, and you can print these off, or you can just draw it on your own separate sheet of paper if you don't have a printer, either one. You're just going to kind of rough draft, or give me an idea of what you're kind of drawing here, okay? And then here it says you're going to basically write a sentence, okay, about each thing you chose to draw out of here. So here we have 2, 2, 2, and 2. And then you're going to kind of highlight, because that's one of the differences between e-learning and being in school. In school, I had you circle it, but on an e-document, I'm going to have you highlight the one that you chose to do. So your character that you might choose to do, it might be Pulan. Who knows? And the events that more relate to her. Or it might be Rahim, and it might be the events that relate to him. It's really kind of up to you what you choose here. Then we're going to use this as kind of that rough draft. You guys have all done rough drafts before, as far as just kind of getting your ideas out on paper. You can, like I said, this I won't be necessarily looking at. You can draw yourself a little box and, kind of lay it out. But then you're going to write a sentence about the box that you're drawing about. And I'll show you, I have an example that I'll show you at the end. So you'll know exactly what it should look like at the end. Okay. And then after that, you're going to locate this piece of paper. Now, again, this is a piece of paper. I'm seeing if I can get this whole thing in the view. It will come in your packet like this. It will be, essentially a square, because remember, our quilts in school would have been square shaped that we would have taped together. It has a dotted line right here. You'll clip off right here and cut the bottom part off. And then from the top part up, you're going to use that for your square to draw on, to write your sentences on and things like that. Okay. You'll pick this up. You'll take your rough draft and your sentences, and this is your final copy. Okay. It has to be in color. Okay. It has to be completely finished. Okay. There's this page, which gives you an example. So up here, you'll see that it says number 1 right here, and that's for the border, because you're going to have to draw in a border. The border has to be an object that has a bigger symbol, a bigger meaning to Shabanu. So what is an object in Shabanu that has a way bigger meaning? So here on the outside of your quilt, all the way around, you're going to kind of make a border, okay? Your border might be a bunch of camels. Who knows? Maybe you want a camel. You're going to draw Guluband over and over again, and have them linked in. Okay. Then, uh, with that, you're going to follow these directions here, and it lays it out. Okay, I won't read through it because you guys can read through it at home, but it lays it out, and then it says you have to have one of your pictures in this square and a sentence describing it. It says 2 to 3 sentences, right small, I guess. And then another picture in this square, and then 2 or 3 sentences describing what that picture is of, another picture in this square, and another picture in this square. All right. Now, the things that it counts for are, or you'll be graded on, is that you filled in all the parts of the packet that are needed. Okay. You have all 4 squares completely drawn and filled out. And at the end, what it will look like is this. This person chose to write this image along the side. Okay. And this image along the side is actually bangled bracelets, because that is something that meant a lot more in the story than just being a bracelet. Then they have their 4 pictures. Okay. And they left a little space here to write their sentences. No, you can't see the sentences, but I don't really want you to, because I don't want to give you that much information. But you can see that they drew pictures of characters and events. Here, up here, this might be something you can kind of see, is a Ferris wheel. What place do you think in the story might have had a Ferris wheel? What do you think? The fair, yeah. The fair, Sibby Fair, of course. So this person, when they completed this activity, drew one of their pictures about her going to the fair. All right. So you're going to pick out some key ideas there. And then the grading is on the bottom of the sheet that you will receive. Again, yours will be a digital form that you'll receive. Okay. And it's all it's all the different grading things that I'll be grading on. Okay. So you need to have your sentences. You need to have cohesiveness in your quilt squares. Like, your descriptions of your squares have to match the drawing. So if you're talking about the Sibby Fair and your drawing is of Poulan's wedding, that don't match. So you're not going to get credit for that. They have to actually be cohesive. Your accuracy, you actually have to accurately describe what you're writing about and drawing about in your picture. So remember, you're telling about the story. So it's not just like, I'm just going to draw a cow, because there were no cows in the story. Okay. So if you start just drawing willy nilly, whatever, just to think you're going to get some points, you probably won't. Okay. You have to have a completed border. All images must be fully colored, or they can be shaded in black and white, like in a grayscale, but the whole thing has to be shaded. It can't just be stick figures and being drawn. Like, it has to be an actual drawing. And then on the back of your story quilt, okay, on the back side here, theirs is just too tiny to see. You have to write the author's name and the title of the book, and in theory, your name on the back of the quilt. But how are we going to share these? That's the big question. All right, so here's what you need to do. If you have the capability to send me a picture, you are going to take a picture with your camera of your story quilt. You're going to take one of the front side and one of the back side. All the other stuff will be submitted digitally online. So where you guys had to type in like the 2 objects you're going to talk about, the 2 events you're going to talk about, the 2 people you're going to talk about, that's going to be submitted online. The very final project, you're going to have to click, take a picture and send it to me. If you have no capability of sending me a picture in any way, shape, or form, now don't get me wrong, each of the Google Chromebooks are supposed to have a camera on them that work. Unfortunately, some kids have reported that their cameras don't work. So you may be able to use your own cell phone and send it through an email to me, or upload it into the document. Either way is fine. Which we'll call it. But if you have absolutely no way of getting this to me, you need to schedule a Google Meet with me, just like we're doing right now. That way you can physically show it to me and I can grade it on the spot. Does that make sense? Because I know everybody has the capacity to Google Meet.
I'm getting yeses.
Okay. So it's either a picture that you're going to send to me, and be clear when you send your picture, because it's probably going to have to come across in an email versus in the classroom. You can upload it, but it's a little challenging. I get it. It may be easier for you to email, and that's okay. In your email, you need to put in the subject line Shabanu Project. Okay. Don't just like leave the subject line blank. Okay. And remember, you have to upload the pictures. Okay. To the email. Please don't send me a blank email. So there's that. All right. Now, the reason why I'm going to try to release it on Sunday is because if there's a lot of people who need to schedule Google Meets with me to show it to me, then at that point in time, I need a little bit more time to be able to do that towards the end of the week. So if you do need to schedule a Google Meet, I mean, by all means, you know today if you have a camera that you can take a picture of something and email it to me, or if you don't. But email me, sooner rather than later, because you may not get a time that you like if a lot of people want to Google Meet. But Camden?
That's not me.
Oh, sorry, Lily. Please wait to do that. So I tried to come to the basement thinking that the kids would stay upstairs because they've kind of monopolized the upstairs, but they follow you wherever you go.
I can't find none. Maybe we can check them out.
Can you guys go upstairs, please?
No, we're just looking at.
No. I'm going to try to keep going. Anyways, so know that you'll have to meet with me in a Google Meet. So if there's any questions about the project, by all means, email me, ask. Again, it won't show up until Sunday because I have to tweak this just a little bit because if I sent this out right now, there's a couple of parts where you would be like, so if you don't have a printer at home, so they're like this part, this very last part, that is going to come apart across in one of your packets, with the quilt already kind of blankly drawn in, go ahead and just hand draw it on a piece of paper. Give yourself a 1-inch border around the side and then evenly distribute the squares in the middle. It's that simple. A 1-inch border and evenly distribute the squares. Use, anything that's got a flat edge in your house. If you don't have a ruler, there's lots of things that got flat edges. In fact, a social studies book has a flat edge, and I sent you with all of those. So use your social studies book if you have to. So you don't have to have a printer. You can, draw it on your own paper if you need to. You don't have to have a camera. You can Google Meet with me and show it to me. So I just wanted to be clear on those things because I didn't want kids to get, confused. Are there any questions? I am actually really very sad that you won't see like all of these actually taped together in a big quilt because it kind of looks cool when we're all done with it. It kind of does when we're all done with it. But, que sera, sera. All right. If there's not any questions, then I'm going to go ahead and let you guys dismiss. If you do have any questions, by all means, ask. And do remember, again, if you want that extra credit that's in the assignment today, you have to have all of your other work turned in.